the one of my favorite people. She's one of the most dynamic speakers on the Concerned Veterans of America's circuit, and just a marvelous woman. Has gone through so much in her life, losing her son. Karen Vaughn, great to have you with us.
It is wonderful to be here and to talk to you again, John. Thank you for that kind introduction.
You know, I have to tell you that, and I've told this story a couple times, but it's worth repeating. I had the opportunity to MC the Concerned Veterans for America Freedom Tour in Roanoke, Virginia. And as part of the MC, I got to introduce everybody that was coming on and all that good stuff. And Karen, your speech that night was so riveting that the next speaker that came on that I had to introduce, I was so choked up, I had to gather myself to get back on the stage. You had me so moved with your words that evening that it took all I had to just get back up there and introduce, I believe it was Jason Redmond had followed you that night. Such a phenomenal speak. If you've never heard Karen speaking, I mean, she's absolutely fantastic. Now, give us an update. There's a lot of things happening with veterans right now and with CVA, and I'm going to start with, we had Congressman Scott Ridgel on earlier, and I got to tell you, Karen, I was outraged when Department of Defense Secretary Ash Carter, in the wake of 4 Marines and 1 sailor being murdered, suggesting that rather than have firearms, that they not wear their uniform. What are we coming to here?
You know, I am really glad you brought that up, John. I'm literally just wringing my hands over here in Florida right now, just literally stunned by what's happening. You know, the families of fallen heroes have been told to be vigilant against these attacks. Our military men and women who signed up and proudly donned that uniform after great work and great cost to their personal lives are being told to take the uniform off. You know, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see us address who this enemy is, destroy this enemy, and move forward as the powerful, vibrant America that I know and believe we are. I think our leaders are so spineless and so weak-willed that it literally makes me puke in my mouth to think about what's happening right now. I mean, we're not allowed to call any evil evil. We're attacking our policemen. We're attacking our soldiers. We're putting people's lives at risk. And frankly, Don, the very reason my son died was these same rules of engagement that are now being applied to our service members here at home and our police, our line of defense here at home. Same rules of engagement. You know what? Whatever you do, we don't want to offend this enemy. We don't want to call this enemy out. Basically, what America is saying is we're scared crapless of this enemy. And you know what? Americans aren't scared of them, John. Americans are willing to do battle with them. But our spineless leaders seem to be having trouble finding the fortitude to do the same.
Look, there's no question about it. You just look at this statement by Ash Carter, our Secretary of Defense. His first reaction is not to arm our reservists, but to have them put on civilian clothes.
Take their uniforms off so they're not targets. It's insane. We're in insane times, and what we've done is we've somehow merged into this pacifistic, lead from behind mentality that, frankly, this commander-in-chief brought into office with him in January of 2009, and we have been in a spiral downfall since the day that man took office. And you know what? As a mom of a dead soldier who gave his life for this nation, it's not satisfactory to me to watch us turn into this weak-willed, spineless country that we seem to be becoming. But again, it's not the people of the country doing this, John. You and I know. We're out there traveling. We're out there meeting people. We're seeing people across this nation. This is not a representation. It is not a reflection of who we are. Did you hear about those moms in Georgia who took up arms and started manning the post outside the recruiting stations in Georgia? That's who we are as a people. That's that Molon Leve spirit. Come and take them spirit that founded this great country. And enough is enough. It's up to the people to say, you leaders get out of our way. We'll deal with this ourselves. And that's exactly what's happening right now.
A proposal in the U.S. Senate right now. This is another thing that's going to drive you bananas, where with all the millions of dollars that we waste almost by the hour Now there's a proposal in the U.S. Senate basically to cut back on the military housing allowance for married couples in the military. What say you?
You're pushing all my buttons this morning. I'm going to break out in hives here in just a minute. You know, yes, with all the billions and trillions that we waste and we give foreign countries, the fact that we're trying to take away benefits from those who are our line of defense is astounding to me. Let me just take it a little bit further. Let me tell you about a situation we're enduring right now. Our family started an organization called Operation 300. We hosted venture camps for kids whose fathers died while serving the country. One of those kids has been at our camp. This will be his third year in November. His mother is now dying, believe this or not. His mother is now dying of cancer, and TRICARE will not cover in-home health care for her as she's dying with a 14-year-old son who will be orphaned in a few months. And these are the cutbacks. This is what's happening. People in the military feel it every day. Housing allowances, inadequate health care, inability to get health care. We're just recently finding out that 230,000 of the 847 veterans that have been on wait lists have died in the backlog while waiting for service. I mean, we're in astounding times. Baltimore, I don't know if you just heard this, an average of 280 days at the Baltimore VA before a veteran has a request responded to. 200 and nearly a year. We can do better than this, and money's not the problem. We're throwing billions of dollars at the VA. We've just got serious issues. It's turned so upside down, and we need some real leadership to step in and say enough is enough. This is insanity. We can do better than this.
Karen, the VA administration is a joke, and everybody knows it. You know, last year we went through this whole thing. Congress passed this Accountability Act, and we got a new director in, Robert McDonald, and all these people were supposed to get fired, and they were going to change the culture. Look, the day after the guy got in there, he started defending the entire bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. Now we find out waiting less longer than ever, numbers manipulated, lies, veterans dying. Nobody's doing anything. This guy's fired what? One guy? Two people who retired? I mean, nothing is getting done.
You know, the problem is this administration approaches the problems of the VA as a political scandal to be contained, not as an impetus to fundamentally reform and fix the troubled department. And that's every single thing we've seen is exactly about this. It's about bureaucrats. You know, congressmen who are not supporting this VA reform are actually stating that they're standing against this reform because employees may lose their civil service protections. Well, Don, when are we going to care about the veterans who are losing their lives? When do we flip this coin and say, you know what? Forget about the people who might lose their civil service. Let's talk about the veteran who put his or her life on the line and now they're dying because they cannot get help at the medical facility we're supposed to be providing help for them in. And this is what we've got. We've got a bureaucracy, you're exactly right, that is completely gridlocked. And until somebody comes in and says, you know, let's think about the vets first, we will never have reform.
Karen Vaughn, last weekend in Ames, Iowa, Donald Trump made what I thought was very ill-advised comments, getting into a spat with John McCain. Whatever you think of John McCain, certainly he served his country well, and I thought those comments were just dumb. What say you?
Well, I agree. You know, John, I believe that very often our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses. And Donald Trump is that one person who I think America is looking at him, wanting to be behind him because, you know, and I'm not saying I support or don't support. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the mystery behind these good numbers for Donald Trump, I believe, is because he's unapologetic in what he says and the positions he holds, and I think Americans are looking for somebody who will be unapologetic, and I think that's why he's doing so well in the polls. His comment about Senator McCain is that very thing about in his unwillingness to back off of it or really, you know, just come out with a distinct apology is part of that strength being his greatest weakness, because what he really needs to do is back off that comment. It was a very terrible comment, especially coming from a man who did 4 or 5 student deferments to keep from serving in Vietnam. I think poor student deferments. To talk about a man who spent 5.5 years as a POW being tortured was a very inappropriate comment, and it's really tactically a very bad decision to not back off of it right now as well, because we are still at war. We need to make sure as Americans that we put somebody in office who understands what servicemen and women experience, who understands that these are real human beings, like John McCain, when he made that comment about, I prefer those who don't get captured, or however he said it. We need somebody as a commander-in-chief right now who gets the military, who gets its importance and its function. And, it's very dangerous for him to set the precedent that he has disrespect in any form or fashion. I do believe, he went on in that comment and said 2 or 3 times that he honors and respects the service. But, he really needs to walk that back if he wants to continue garnering support, I believe.
Look, an ill-advised statement. There's no question about it. And he got dogged. Dogged into it. Sometimes you just say things you don't mean. But look, I agree with you 100%. I mean, John McCain, whatever you think of his policies or politically, as far as I'm concerned, he did something that I couldn't imagine myself having to do. And when he had the opportunity to get out early because his father was an admiral and have himself step above another POW in there, he declined it, not knowing if he would ever get out alive. So right there, I think Trump's comments were very inappropriate. I know him. I don't know him that well, but I've had him on my show a number of times. I doubt they're really reflective of what he thinks, but it doesn't matter. You own what you say. You are what you say. And I just think that was inappropriate. And look, I also think that it takes away from the bigger issues that we've got going on, and which is basically that the VA is in a shambles and politicians haven't done anything to fix it. So if he had just concentrated on that, I think he'd be fine. I mean, I know that Senator McCain has spent a lot of time trying to get the VA straightened out, but he's just failed. The entire 535 of them have failed. The VA. Right?
I agree completely. And one thing that I find very interesting about Donald Trump, and let's just back up too and say McCain owes an apology to the people that are supporting Donald Trump, calling them crazies. As a veterans advocacy group, CVA has taken a distinct stand against what Donald Trump said about John McCain. But on a personal level, I'd like to hear John McCain also apologize. I appreciate his position on what he wants to do for the VA and the support that he has given our organization, for sure. He has been extraordinarily supportive, but in all honesty, John, we had to push him along. We had to do some work to get him on board. So it's not a rosy picture on either side. But what I do find interesting about Donald Trump is he sure knows how to stir the pot, doesn't he? I mean, I'm really looking forward to the debate. Probably for the first time in many election cycles, I'm actually anxious for the ability of somebody to stand up there again, unapologetic, and make people take positions, force them to take stands. Because, if he does nothing else, even if he drops out of this race, prematurely, which could possibly happen, at least he's forced people to make a stand on their positions on immigration, different things like that. That's what America is starving for right now, is somebody who will lead unapologetically. We don't have to agree with every single thing you believe, but we just want America. We just want America to be a force again, led by somebody who has the courage to say what they think and then defend it or apologize for it if they didn't mean it, which I agree with you. He probably didn't mean that. He probably wishes he hadn't said it.
Yeah, I don't think he means that at all. I mean, I've talked to him enough and been in his company enough that I look what he's done for vets in the military. I don't think he believes that. I just think he said something that he shouldn't have said. At the end of the day, though, I'm going to make this prediction. I think Donald Trump is going to exceed all expectations in this debate. If you spend any time around this guy, he's very formidable, and I think he's going to be the nominee. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're out of time. We want to thank Karen Vaughn, Concerned Veterans for America, Senior Military Families Advisor. Go to CV, the number 4A.org.